Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John Costa. Today is January 6th, 2026. An important day, too, right? January 6th. But we're not even going to touch on that today. Today is going to be more of our favorite clown, Schumer. And today we're also going to talk about more of the fraud fallout coming out of Minnesota and now apparently Illinois. So as this is expanding, we're seeing more investigations going on. Also, in the state of Washington, the Attorney General there, Nick Brown, right, has threatened and investigated reporters. And it's going to be an interesting play there because obviously they're running very scared. And a lot of states are running scared. And I'm sure there's some red states that are running scared. Not just blue states, but red states. Everyone that got money from the federal government during COVID and programs run by the Biden administration and NGOs, you are in for a hurt of an audit. All right, let's get back to Schumer, my favorite clown, other than Bozo. Seems like Chuck Schumer forgot his little speech in 2020 involving, I hear you, involving his statements on Maduro. And he stated in, I think it was in February of 2020, it was almost like right after President Trump's first State of the Union address. The president brags about Venezuela policy. Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began his anti-Maduro campaign. Same thing with North Korea, same thing with China, same things with Russia, same things with Syria. Now let's fast forward to today. Syria's Assad is gone. China is in economic turmoil. North Korea is being squeezed. And do we even need to speak about the Russia's issues right now? Iran is on the brink of collapse. Cuba will be falling right after Iran goes. Schumer is yet again the clown, and Democrats will not follow him much longer. Jeffries will be gone too. There were rumors that Jeffries had tried to contact Maduro, and that was false. Jeffries would never do that. Too smart of a man. That was made a comment that was posted by some comedian. But no. People, if anyone thinks that, Jeffries tried to tip off Maduro, that's patently false. In the edited show, I will put up the exact speech, the exact quotes that Schumer had said on the floor of the Senate. We are seeing that Cuba had troops in Venezuela, and there's unconfirmed reports of specialized Chinese military persons there as well. I said that before. This is just not about drugs, folks. This is about letting people into our hemisphere that we don't want in our hemisphere. Biden, this was while Biden was president, and who made comments in June 2020 on Twitter, now known as X. Trump talks tough on Venezuela, but admires thugs and dictators like Nicolas Maduro. Reads Biden's June 20th, 2020 post on X, then known as Twitter. As president, I will stand with Venezuelan people and for democracy. Yeah. After Biden took office, his administration did nothing about Maduro. The Biden administration released Alex Saab, a notorious fixer and money launderer from Maduro, in exchange for the release of 10 Americans being held hostage there. Schumer, did we forget about that? The great problem with such deal is that Maduro has the ability to imprison new American hostages, and he had done so. And this is because the Obama administration and the Biden administration cut deals with terrorists, negotiated with them. But to be fair, Biden in January 2025 did offer a $25 million bounty, up from Trump's $15 million offer for the arrest and conviction of Maduro. So, President Biden was all in favor of arresting Maduro. Schumer, care to comment on that? Chucky? Chuck, you there? You want to answer about that? How about you, Bob, in New York? You want to answer about that? Democrats want to answer about that? President Trump did raise that bounty to $50 million, which President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated will not be paid since our military captured Maduro and his wife. Now, Chuck getting on ABC News on Sunday and, demanding Congress, demanding this, demanding that, and yet there were arrest warrants out for this guy. I'm going to tell you right now, Democrats, you follow this guy, Schumer, and it's guaranteed you are going to lose twice as many seats as you would have lost anyway. And Maduro is going to start talking, and we're going to start capturing other members of his cartel. And any of the politicians that got money from these people, be them blue, be them red, you're going to be in for a hurting. You're not going to get away with it, and you're going to have to face the music. I think that Schumer, after, like I said, I'll be shocked if he makes it till August. I see him just being disregarded and made inconsequential. And it will be the progressives that will, be screaming and churning up the heat to get Chuck out. Pelosi's gone. She's already said she's not running. Waters should be next to go. Green, Elizabeth Warren. Bernie Sanders is up there screaming and yelling. Good chance that some of those seats up in the northern part of the country are going to change to red. Yeah. Yeah. Yesterday was also the 1 year anniversary of the show. And in that show, I had stated that that was my prediction of a Trump win in the House, and both houses. But that was, after the fact. But I did some shows in December as trial shows, and those were my predictions. I thought that Trump was going to lock it up, and that the houses will lose seats to red states, and that would be the end of it. And that's exactly what happened. American voters are only going to take so much. You have, polls that go, well, 3 out of 4 Americans aren't happy that we arrested Maduro. You got to be kidding me. Absolutely unbelievable. It was the proper use of our legal system, and it was the proper use of our military in capturing a criminal. And we have used our military to capture criminals. Right? Right? Bob? Would you like me to name a couple? How about a couple of big ones? How about the military attack on bin Laden's hideout? How about the military use of us taking out a known American terrorist that was a member of ISIS? Okay? I'll just name more if you want later, Bob, or you could text me and whatever. Tell me my show is ridiculous. Though I laugh, Bob. I did. That's 15 minutes here. Well, 14 minutes of bashing good old Chucky Schumer. And I liked Chuck Schumer. I thought Chuck Schumer was a very competent politician. He just buckled to the progressives, and the progressives just tore him apart and watched, didn't intervene. The other moderate Democrats didn't intervene to support Schumer, and just sat back and said, "Oh, I don't want to be part of that fight because I'll get scratched." And now you're seeing like Omar under investigation and some other prominent people in the Democratic Party. I don't think she's prominent. I just think she's a loudmouth. And she'll get hers. And speaking of that, we're going to segue right into Walz. We know that Walz has stepped away from his re-election efforts since the huge tens of billions of dollar fraud cases have been uncovered in his state. He stated yesterday that Nick Shirley, the influencer and investigative reporter that he had broken into buildings during his investigation, which Mr. Shirley stated that all the buildings he went to were locked shut and he never entered any property. So now you're having Walz trying to say, oh, he did this all illegally. He broke into property. He didn't break into anything. He didn't break into anything. Now, New Mexico's Attorney General, Keith Ellison, is and has prosecuted fraud cases revolving around this scandal over the past year. So they were aware of fraud going on. But it was very hush-hush. The news media didn't grab a hold of it. And the news media, like CNN and MSNBC and others, were allegedly told of the fraud going on. Now, why Fox never picked it up, I have to question whether those statements that, the news organizations were informed. But certainly, their state employee the representatives had stated that the DNC was made aware of this as the Walz name was being kicked around for consideration for the VP choice. And that there were already federal charges brought by Merrick Garland on people in that state that was never made known to the public. Now, could the public have found out? Could the media have found out? Sure they could have. And for some reason they did not. Which makes me question, who's investigating? Who's doing all this stuff? And I can't believe Fox and Breitbart and these other ones don't have people that just look for a name to come up anywhere in a docket. Yeah, I got some splaining to do, Lucy. But will Keith Ellison bring charges against Omar and Walz if there is evidence of wrongdoing on their part? They've hidden so much. Dereliction of duty, dereliction of office. I mean, those could be charges that could be brought against them. And I'll get into that, what the state can bring them up on. But how about the good old federal government and Department of Justice? Also, I think there's up to 2,000 federal agents now in Minnesota poring over everything. Poring over everything. And they're looking at Walz and they're looking at Omar. Omar is getting a lot more attention, I think, money-wise, because of her husband. Walz he never owned anything, but we don't know what he might be owning secretly offshore. China. Remember, he was a big proponent of China. Chinese government loved him. Omar went from a negative net worth in 2018 to a $30 million reported net worth in 2024, which he claims is due to her husband's business. So, I won't say that can't be true. But it just seems funny that her husband's business started removing stuff and pulling stuff down right after the scandal started happening. And her husband has a venture capital business. Will be interesting, folks. And Tim Walz has about a net worth of about $1 million, mostly made up from pension assets. He worked for as a teacher. He worked for the state. He worked. He got a military pension, and so being worth $1 million in pension, not a big deal. He doesn't own a home. He doesn't own stocks. He doesn't own bonds. He doesn't have real estate holdings, and he has no ties to other businesses that anyone is aware of. He might, and it might be perfectly legitimate. You know, who knows? Don't know. But I don't know. And I did look, but I couldn't find anything. So I'm going to say he does not. I will give him the benefit of the doubt. More so than anyone would give President Trump. Right? He was guilty. Now, federal laws that could be used to indict Governor Walz or Representative Omar, if there is evidence pointing towards, some type of crime. Under 18 USC code subsection 666, which is kind of creepy in itself, theft or bribery concerning programs receiving federal funds. And I'll read some sections that apply, because any one of these sections, in part or whole, can trigger the Department of Justice from enforcing 18 USC subsection 666. And it's whoever, if the circumstances described in section B of this section exists, one being an agent or organization of a state, local, or Indian tribal government, or any agency thereof. A, embezzles, steals, obtains by fraud, or otherwise without knowingly converts the use of any person other than the rightful owner, or intentional misapplies property that is valued at $5,000 or more, and is owned by or under the care, custody, or control of such organizations, government, or agencies. And then it goes on with the big or. Corruptly solicits or demands for benefits of any person, or accepts or agrees to accept anything of value from a person intending to be influenced or rewarded in connection with any business transactions or series of transactions of such organization, government, or agency involving anything of value of $5,000 or more. Would you consider buying votes? Of value of $5,000 or more, or corruptly gives, offers, or agrees to give anything of value to any person. Section 2 would apply if you were saying, if you get me votes. With the intent to influence or reward any agent of an organization or of a state, local, or Indian tribal government, or any agency thereof in connection with any business transactions or series of transactions of such organization, government, or agencies involving anything of value of $5,000 or more. So, and this should be fined under this title, in prison to not more than 10 years or both. So there is a lot that can be done to go after the people who have defrauded the taxpayers of Minnesota and the federal government, which is all of us, including the taxpayers of Minnesota, because they pay federal taxes too. So it's a double whammy on them. The circumstances referred to in subsection A of this section is the organization, government, or agencies receive in any 1 year period benefits in excess of $10,000 under a federal program involving a grant, contract, subsidy, loan guarantee, insurance, or other forms of federal assistance. So this is a very broad, I can catch you all, because in one paragraph they said anything of value, and then the next one they're talking money. And when you're talking about of anything of value, does a vote have value? Sure it does. A gift, a trip has value. A favor has value. This section does not apply to bona fide salary, wages, fees, or other compensations paid or expenses paid or reimbursed in the usual course of business. So, you can't say, hey, I got a raise or something and you wanted something out of that. Now, this is normal course of business is covered under that. Now, if it was exorbitant, let's say you went from $20,000 a year to $250,000 a year doing the same job, that might catch someone's eye and question that. And the term agent means any person authorized to act on behalf of another person or government, and in this case, in the case of an organization or government, includes a servant, interesting, or employee and partner, director, officer, manager, and representatives. So a manager can be caught in under all this stuff, because they're the manager. They know what's going on. And if they see something that is wrong, they report it. The term government agency means a subdivision of the executive, legislative, judicial, or other branch of government, including a department, independent establishment, commission, administration, authority, board, and bureau. Talk about some of this stuff as NGOs. And a corporation or other legal entity established and subject to control by a government or government for the execution of governmental and intergovernmental programs. It gets very wordy, folks. So authority, boards, and bureaus, and corporations and other legal entities established and subject to control by a government or governments for the execution of government or intergovernmental programs. The term local means of or pertaining to a political subdivision within the state. Not so sure what that means. The term state includes the state of the United States, the District of Columbia, any Commonwealth, territory, or possession of the United States. I wonder if Venezuela falls under that now. This is where I said it gets very murky in what the president can really do. And 5, the terms in any 1 year period means a continuous period that commences no earlier than 12 months before the commission of the offense, or that ends no later than 12 months after the commission of the offense. Such period may include time both before and after the commission of the offense. Meaning, you can run, but you can't hide. There are time limitations on a lot of stuff, but they're deep with the federal government. And mostly when fraud is involved, the clock stops. Now, with all that going on, Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown was alleged to have said he was going to go after any investigative reporter or anyone that was going to go after and look at fraud. And he went and said, that's not what I said. But when you read what he did say, make your own conclusions. Washington State Attorney General Nick Brown has not stated a desire to arrest investigative reporters and charge them with a hate crime. Instead, he issued a statement that warned against conduct such as doxing, harassment, or filming minors at private residencies and daycares that could potentially violate state hate crimes or harassment laws, particularly in the context of investigations into alleged fraud at Somali-run daycares. Now, why would the Attorney General of the state of Washington make that statement? That if you're going to be looking at our daycare system or, using the Somali fraud cases as a reason to come and look in our state, in our daycare, you'd be arrested. The controversy began after citizen journalists or extremist influencers. Isn't that amazing? I thought progressives, Bob, correct me when I say this, extremist influencers, weren't those social justice fighters? Correct me if I'm wrong, Bob. Published videos alleging widespread fraud in taxpayer-funded child care facilities run by members of the Somali community. These actions led to reports of targeted harassments and fear within the Somali community. Well, if you can't control what is considered fear, because you could be afraid of a spider and another person is not afraid of a spider. And the community as a whole, living in fear, it's very broad, very broad. Now, if they were just arresting Somalians on the street, then I can understand the Somali community as a whole being afraid. Because when the Jews or Christians are arrested en masse by governments, those communities are then fearful. But this has not been the case, other than the Somalians, because there's a problem with their immigration status. Okay. The key points from the Attorney General's statements and related reports focus on harassment. Brown's statement condemned showing up on someone's porch, threatening or harassing them, and filming minors who may be in the home as unsafe and potentially dangerous behavior. He emphasized this conduct is distinct from legitimate journalism. define legitimate journalism. There is no term legitimate journalism. So you all understand that, right? Because you don't have to be licensed or certified or have a government issued ID card as a journalist. I could go as being news with a view and say, hey, I have a show that I do. I'm a journalist. Here is my show. Here is this. Here is that. And in theory, I could become a journalist and get press ID. Does the press ID make it legitimate? Or just to say you're a journalist? Do you need to be a journalist to be an investigative reporter? Brown has put himself into a real question and possible actionable case against him using US 18 USC subsection 242, which is the transparency of the First Amendment and freedom of the press. So it would be, he's skirting around that, and he tried to get away from that in his opening statement, but if you read deeper, it's exactly what he is saying. If you are not a legitimate reporter or investigator for, let's say, 60 minutes, 48 hours, face the nation, something along those, yeah, you could get in trouble setting up a camera in front of a daycare on the public. So he's saying on the front porch. And I will agree with him saying that you can't go onto someone's property. And if that person tells you, get off my property, you're trespassing. Their right of the press, and no. You could scream that from the sidewalk, but you can't go up to their porch. So I agree with him on that. But it's not legitimate journalism. It's just the law. You can't trespass. Now, if there's no sign saying no trespassing, you go up to the door. But if there is a sign up there that says no trespassing, only people from the government who deliver mail, or the police, or the fire department that would have a legitimate reason to enter your property for a legitimate cause. They're the only ones. Okay? So you understand that Brown is skirting US 18 USC subsection 242. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I do not have any such degrees, but I do know how to read. And I do know how to subjectively figure out what a standing is. And there's other ways to look where people have said, no, this is what it means. And then in court, they got a ruling, no, that's not what it means. This is what it means. And there's all books on this. And it's fascinating. if you want to get down into that minutia. So we go a little bit deeper in this comment, and the Attorney General's office clarified that it was not targeting legitimate investigative journalism, rather specific intimidating behaviors. Well, I'm intimidated that he's questioning me. How dare him try to intimidate me? Right? Officials recommend using appropriate channels to report fraud, such as the Department of blah, 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 blah. Well, they can recommend it. You don't have to follow that. You could just explode it in a news report. You can sensationalize it. You can make the public aware of it. Attorney General Brown. So people are saying the statement drew criticism from some, including U.S. Assistant Attorney General Hamet Dilan, who suggests that the AG's warning could be interpreted as a threat to the First Amendment rights. Yeah, yay. So, and the Attorney General's office maintains that the position is to differentiate between proper investigating measures and behaviors that constitute harassment or a hate crime. Define a hate crime. We've seen how our legal system has been bastardized. We've seen how people have been used. We see how people have lied. We've seen this. Sometimes you go to a legitimate government agency and say, hey, this is going on. And they go, well, sit over here, let's get going, let's see. And they come back and they go, well, Mr. John, looking over some stuff here that we have. And we see you went to the Bahamas. Were you on vacation? No, you don't have to answer, but you do. Because it looks like you rented a hotel room and listed 2 people as the occupancy, but your wife was in Sheboygan on the state. Let's see. What? Oh, by the way, you came in here with a complaint about what? No, never mind. You enjoy your next trip. You don't think that doesn't happen? You don't think that, hey, Charlie, my good friend, I just got someone walking in here who's pointing at your department as having a major problem. Now, on Friday I have a meeting. Today's Tuesday. You might want to speak with employee X. And then if employee X wants to modify his statement to me, I'm here till 9:30 a.m. Friday. If not, I do have to kick this upstairs. But I could also say the guy I called their office, and the guy was more of a crackpot than he was a whistleblower. But we'll look into it. And that's it, and it goes away. Or they go to the guy and they go, Charlie, why would you go over there and do that? You got a beef, you come to me. So, sometimes you just need to put it out there and go. Now, not only does that agency know that there's a problem, but the public knows there's a problem. You have a good day. All right, I've been doing this now for 45 minutes. Everyone should try to contact Chuck Schumer's office and look it up. A lot of the times they cannot answer mail or questions from people that are not in their districts. In this case, he's from the state of New York. He can't answer someone from South Carolina. But there are ways of contacting him and making it known that, hey, we're putting the heat on you. And I mean legit, not hate mail. Don't do that. Don't threaten anyone, or just say, hey, Chuck, did you forget this? You made these comments, and we're not going to forget it. And that's it. Never threaten anyone. Doesn't serve a point, and you'll get in trouble. So don't do that. All right, everyone, please give to a charity. If you're so inclined not to give to a charity, for whatever your reasons are, and there are a lot of legitimate reasons why, please think about giving to a food bank with food or money. Money for food banks, because they have a direct input in where that money needs to go for their particular situation. Clothing, toys, games, anything that can be used by that organization if they wish to collect it. Say a prayer. Prayer does work no matter what a Democrat might tell you. And with that, everyone, take care, be well, be safe. Probably the last show I'll be doing this week will be Wednesday. And then there'll be no show Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. Unless I see something really blow up, and which could happen. But again, thank you for listening. And if you're not a subscriber to my page, to my channel, please subscribe. Or leave a like. It all helps. This is not a monetized channel. So those likes and those people joining my channel just gives me a little bit more playroom inside the mechanics of YouTube. So I appreciate it. Everyone, take care. Be well. Tonight is Tuesday. It is not a Socrates stationed bar and restaurant night. It is card night. I play cards with the boys. All right. Everyone, be safe. Take care as I fade to